I'm Ty Ballard. I'm from Letohatchee, Alabama, and just that's about, if anyone's wondering, about maybe 30 minutes from the Montgomery area. I am a model, I am a content creator, I am a creative director, and I'm also the junior associate of the Communities of Color and Media Department over at the organization GLAD. A fun fact about me is I'm a theater kid, a music theater kid. I will always be a musical theater kid, and I was also a choir kid as well. So music and performing has always been a part of my life, and that was actually the starting point to me realizing that I wanted to be a creative in the first place. Yeah, I think one challenge that is unique to women of color in general is just the simple fact that when we talk about the preparation of a set, a lot of times either there's no one on set that's going to be able to accurately, whether it's do your makeup or your hair, or they do and it's still not quite right. So I had to kind of learn how to do my own makeup, had to learn how to do my own hair a lot of times, especially if you're trying to navigate not always coming off as being difficult. Always trying to have a smile on your face to be pleasant. But I'm really big and still standing up for myself. So a lot of times people will ask me questions like, oh, like, why are you doing this or da da da? And I'm like, well, this is why. And I'm going to explain it to you in the most professional way that I possibly can. But I try to create every moment or every conversation that I have with people as a learning moment. Or at least hope that they're taking it as a learning moment. From the modeling side of things, that's probably my biggest thing. As far as my career as a whole, like I'm an activist, I'm an advocate, so I genuinely have no problem with speaking my mind and speaking for what I feel like is right and what I'm passionate about. But that's not always received in every single room. But that's also something that I've had to learn how to accept, regardless of how people necessarily take it. The truth is the truth. And I'm gonna say it with as much compassion and as much love as I possibly can, and just hope that my message comes through. Don't worry about how big or small you're having to start. I would consider that my activism work started as early as when I was in high school. Sometimes that genuinely means me starting a small club at my high school and just starting there, and there's really only 5 of us, but we're having these really important conversations and we're doing community work and we're being active both from a political aspect as well as environment, or making sure that people are getting certain basic needs during the holidays, or whatever that case may be. It doesn't matter how big or small. Now I'm working with one of the biggest organizations in the country or even the world, but you don't have to start there. Sometimes making the biggest impact is literally the impact that you make in your backyard, or sometimes the impact starts with your own family. It starts with holding your own people accountable, because if they're not holding themselves accountable, you can bring that to light and hopefully bring up more moments for them to possibly learn and grow themselves, and that's how we build up our community. So I would say just start from literally wherever you are. You don't necessarily have to wait for some big door to open. Sometimes, especially as a Black woman, you have to open your own doors. My self-care, sometimes it fluctuates, because it sometimes depends where my time actually goes. But at the very least, I am always listening to music, right? Music has always been my home. It is always, regardless of where I'm at. So I have specific playlists depending on like how I'm feeling, and I really like lean into that, and I just zone in and I just lock in. So sometimes my self-care is just that, creating that mental space for myself. Sometimes my self-care is putting my phone completely on Do Not Disturb by literally 7 or 8 p.m. Sometimes my self-care literally just looks like getting a slice of cake and enjoying it and not necessarily restricting myself. Actually just taking those little wins. And sometimes my self-care looks like analyzing some of the things that I've done throughout the week. I think sometimes we get so lost within the cycle of a routine that we forget that there were little things that you did well throughout the week that has made you one step closer to whatever that goal is that you're going for that's happening tomorrow or next week or the next month. Each step makes you closer to that, so you have to be able to look back and be like, okay, even though I'm not quite there yet, I did this thing, which was cool. It might not necessarily mean much to the average person, but to me, it meant the world. To me, it made X a lot easier for me to be able to accomplish so that I can reach to the point that I want to be. So yeah, that's what I have to do, and I have to constantly remind myself of that because I get so lost in everything very, very easily, and I'm just like, I'm go, 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 go. Even to the point where sometimes even the great things that I do, it doesn't always even immediately look to be like the biggest thing to me because I'm just so like, on to the next one. As soon as you do the first big thing, it's like, okay, well, what's next? But sometimes I have to stop and be like, no, Ty, like, you're doing a good job. Yeah, it's okay to celebrate it. It's okay to, even if it's just by yourself, to go out and enjoy a good dinner and a good drink and just celebrate yourself no matter how big or small the wins are. I tell her it's okay. If I could talk to my 12-year-old self, I would tell her it's okay. That was a time period where puberty, middle school, kids being mean. This was also a time period where I was kind of starting to really get into like theater, and anyone who's a theater kid also knows how other theater kids are too. The ego can be high and it just becomes this really big thing. I feel like that's kind of like growing up in the arts in general though. It's a very competitive situation. And I used to beat myself up over not necessarily maybe getting certain roles, or even as I was changing into about to be like a teen and all of that, like there was a lot of unique changes that was going on where my self-esteem was also not the greatest. Also battling even comments that I might have either heard from other kids or even my own family. Mentally, even as a child, it took a lot from me, and I was so focused on how other people viewed me that I do feel like even like at 12, there were certain opportunities that I probably could have taken that I didn't while I was in middle school, even then. But now I would tell her, like, who cares? Like, no one cares. Most people aren't even paying as close of attention as you really think they are. And the most important thing is to genuinely just do you, do what you love. If this feels really good to you right now, then do that, lean into it. If it's not harming anyone, lean into it. Make that your superpower, because the more that you're able to put into that, the more that you're able to grow into that, the possibility of where you'll become from that is endless. So always pour into yourself, always give yourself grace, compliment yourself more. You are beautiful, you are intelligent, you are kind. Just be nice to yourself. That's what I would tell my 12-year-old self. I was very mean to my 12-year-old self when I was a kid. I can't even lie. It was very harsh. I was very strict on myself. I went to a magnet art school too. So the requirements that were expected of me was extremely high. ever since starting at second grade, like I went to very highly ranked schools in the state, and they took that very, very seriously, even going all the way up into high school. And whether we're looking from an arts perspective or from an academics perspective, it was just it was very stressful for me. It was actively like a full-time job, and I wasn't the only student that was feeling this way. It was a lot of us that were. But when you do come from a background where you're the only one that is going to a school like that, a lot of times your family doesn't necessarily always completely understand some of the stresses that you're having because from their perspective, you're only 12, you're only 13, you're only 14. And so there was a lot of things that I was also having to teach myself at 12 years old, especially being the oldest, and not only the oldest, but the oldest daughter of 3 younger sisters. And I love them, and I live for the fact that I was able to come out of that, to be able to show them that you can. Because they're just as smart and they're just as intelligent, and now they're doing a lot of the things that I was doing as a kid, and they're excelling in a lot of the things that I was doing as a kid, and even in a lot of the things that I wish that I did as a kid, they're excelling in, and it's such a beautiful thing watching them do that. And they have a completely different mindset than I had. They have the mindset that I had to teach myself to have. And the fact that they have that at the age that I was then, oh, I know they're gonna be great. And that brings me so much continuous joy as I continue to get older. So yeah. I'm about to cry. You brought that one out of me. That's crazy. Yeah, I think the easiest way is my Instagram, which is at Tymia, TYMIA.db. There you'll find, of course, my Instagram, but also you'll find my email. You'll find my portfolio if you ever want to work with me for anything creative-wise. I do check DMs, but email probably will be the best way to reach me. But trust me, regardless if you reach me through DMs or if you email me, I will get back to you. I check my messages almost religiously. So.